Hello world! Curses and madness be upon you all for life fighters. With the next town takeover coming up very soon, I wanted to take a look at some little lore nuggets that could inform us about significant locations coming to the Outlands in the future. And without any further ado, let's start with the most likely candidates for the upcoming town takeover, Pathfinder and Gibraltar. Starting us off pretty strong actually, Pathfinder's stadium on Olympus has already actually been revealed through playtest images, while Gibraltar recently had his Heirloom teased through the family portrait comic. As the Marvin quest will likely conclude with this season's comic, and Pathfinder has his own lore book releasing soon, I'd imagine Path is basically guaranteed the next takeover. But Gibby could also build from his relationships on Olympus to push for his own dedicated event, that could then tie in with his Heirloom release or more directly into a future story. And while Path will be getting a mysterious stadium built on Olympus, likely covered in ziplines, I can see Gibby's takeover introducing a location linked back to his work with SARAS, like some kind of launch pad or a medical bay, and this would most likely be placed on King's Canyon to represent his home turf, but it could be placed on Olympus to facilitate an official connection back to Nick through the story. Something like a medical bay would obviously contain a lot of restorative items or something like healing stations for use in-game, but if we wanted something a bit more violent, we could always look to the new Rampart mod shop, confirmed to be hitting Olympus in the near future thanks to the Legal Eagles loading screen. This could even be just a small map addition as opposed to a takeover, as Olympus is able to reconfigure its own structure, but a grand opening would certainly help to promote that kind of event. And in either case, the shop itself stands out to me as a cool point of interest, as it would serve a very clear function in providing high quality weapons and attachments, perhaps even with some kind of deployable terrain for cover. And to make sure we cover everyone, Horizon is another character almost destined for a town takeover set on Olympus, with her research focusing around the Phase Runner and the Rift, and either of these locations could see something like a research center or a further experiment added to them in her name. The activation panels at the hub and in the Arcadia could also tie in with this kind of expansion, but they are just as likely to be for future quests or other map changes. As the Arcadia brought scientific equipment up to Olympus at the behest of Lillian Peck, supposedly, it's certainly possible that this will lead into some kind of development with Horizon and perhaps Ash, but there's also the possibility that the rocket itself will be taking us to New Horizons, by which I mean new planets, and to the first takeover set on a possible future map, Lifeline's Chevrex promotion on Salvo. Charisse Shea has been making huge moves for the Syndicate, bringing Warlord Sandringham Kelly and his planet Salvo into their fold, and with her daughter foiling a scheme that threatened their rule, Charisse now seems to have some pretty nefarious plans for AJ herself. To me, she's likely to push Lifeline into becoming a face for the Shay's business on Salvo, or even into becoming something of a prize for Sandringham Kelly themselves, either of which could lead to a locale linked to AJ on the planet, but one that she would personally detest, and that she could eventually take over for herself and gift to something like the Frontier Corps. A Chevrex or Chevrex promotion, I'm not sure how you should pronounce that, could host anything from weapons to drones, as per the Shay's known businesses, and a transfer to the Frontier Corps would move the drones towards being more helpful than harmful, perhaps even allowing AJ to bring Olympus's agricultural tricks to Salvo's likely more industrial setting. And with a greater, more benevolent aim in mind, we move to our delightful little cinnamon bun, Wattson, with her recent lore teaser, drawn by the fabulous Jalart, showcasing her interest in an interstellar conference on quantum physics. While this could just be ornamental flavour, essentially, it does present a nice idea for a locale to show Wattson's significance in the wider scientific community, with an interstellar conference hall, spearheaded by Wattson, drawing particular attention to the cooperative fields and governance of the Outlands, while also giving us a unique point of interest for dropping more interstellar lore hints or sci-fi technicalities. and while there's nothing to tease this exactly, I think we could also see Wattson eventually augmenting the repulsor or water treatment on King's Canyon, or the geysers on World's Edge, in order to provide some sort of further energy production or environmental stability. Game-wise, this would then allow them to develop a wild, trap-filled maze of electrical circuits, or new natural traversal options through a series of waterfalls, turbines, or even something like water cannons. And with that all said, the final legend to have a pretty clear lore tease for their own town takeover is having a bit of trouble.
Hey, wait, where's my boat?
The Mirage Voyage seems destined to replace the Arcadia on Olympus, if you ask me, but for now it's been hidden away from us, and that might even be a bamboozle in itself, as the Arcadia could also be replaced by locations from other Olympus districts, or even by POIs from existing maps, as the Branthium balloons seen above King's Canyon and World's Edge could have been present to airlift elements from one place to another. My favourite idea here is for the giant skull from King's Canyon to be just put on display on Olympus, just because they can do that. Salvage then would also be a pretty good spot to then put Gibraltar's SARAS launchpad though, so that kind of move could serve multiple map changes. And from here I don't have any exact hints, just a few ideas on what or where certain town takeovers would be. Bangalore seems like a pretty strong candidate for a firing range on Salvo, keeping with that sort of industrial feel and the idea of a planet run by a warlord, but a firing range could technically go anywhere, yet it would always kinda have to be linked back to Bangs if you ask me. Loba then definitely feels like she should have a locale focused again on Olympus, in keeping with her high society nature, and allowing her to take some pride in a place that cost her so much. Perhaps something like a Salon could be a fun yet fitting setting, but an exhibition of Loba's art collection could also be on the cards for some more glamorous decor, and a way to expand on the inner workings of Olympus's high society. Another Olympus linked one now with Caustic. The Grow Foundation is a body I could see investing in Caustic to open his own greenhouse or some kind of biodome, or perhaps even an apiary. Getting attacked by bees or crazy wild plants could add some fitting hazard to proceedings, and the link to his work in pesticides would help facilitate the contrast between his usual nihilistic worldview and the seeming care he would have to take of his precious plants or bees. Sticking with nihilists though, Revenant has two distinct options in my mind, with Olympus offering a spot to teleport his head to if we're not going to go down to the Samathan surface, which could then give us some kind of museum to expand on Simulacrum history, or even something like an execution platform so as to push Loba to bring about his end. The other location comes about thanks to a recent lore update concerning King's Canyon, so this does have some kind of evidence behind it, as Revenant's original purpose has been revealed, not as an undying assassin, but as the central control for a Simulacrum army. The loss of Revenant's storage and rental could lead the Syndicate to set up a new facility aiming to expand on his existing link to these bodies, restarting the original project that led to his creation. But this plot thread could also lead us into future quests or PvE elements instead. An army of Revenants rising from the sea would be a sick expansion to the world, adding further stakes to his situation with Loba, and augmenting the overall gameplay of King's Canyon specifically. In that vein, translating this idea into a point of interest, we'd likely see a facility with multiple Sentry Revenants to activate, in a similar vein to Titanfall 2's Spectres. These could also provide some valuable loot if defeated, making it sort of an analogue to Bloodhound's Trials. And then, to use less of an analogue and more of just an existing location, when my best girl Ash finally turns up, unearthing the Lost Tomb could be a fun way to further change up King's Canyon and expand on her intervening years. Although, given her near-confirmed connections to Olympus, that's going to be a really good place to expand on her earlier history as well, such as where or why she became a Simulacrum, unless we've already been there. And finally, for a place that nobody actually wants to go, it'd be pretty dead if you did anyway, the Forge Museum on Gaea. With Salvo and Gaea being the two most heavily referenced planets in the extended lore at present, and so likely to receive their own maps, the Forge Museum well could be an actual point of interest at some point, and would be a really silly way to pay homage to the lost legend, maybe with some kind of forced melee-only dueling arena or something like that. But with Caustic, Crypto and Wattson's storyline seemingly having more focus in the upcoming seasons, Gaea definitely offers a fitting space to expand on their relationships, with Katarina Tikasek Knox, otherwise known as Mystik, connecting Caustic and Crypto's early years, and the presence of Big Sister potentially offering even more conflict for Crypto's present. If only Wattson could bring herself to forgive him. But seemingly, every choice she's made
led to failure.
Whether she's struggling with admitting fault, or unable to emotionally vocalize herself, or even scared that accepting Crypto will just make Caustic worse, this emotional rollercoaster paves the way for a lot of growth from our favourite little electron, and Gaea might just be the jumpstart that she needs. The personalised locations that emerge from Apex Legends worlds really help to solidify their characters' motivations and attitudes, and they can offer us a lot of fun gameplay expansion as well. Olympus evidently still has the Dwaras to expand upon, knowledge of Boone might help us update Bloodhound's trials, Salvo is causing all sorts of nonsense it seems. There's a lot to come from expanding the Outlands, so let me know your ideas for takeover locales down below. Come chat with me about them in the comments, because that's all for today. Thank you for staying with me, friends. I hope you've enjoyed my silly ramblings. I've been Euclidean Vision, the emotional support. Take care of yourselves out there, teammates, and may the glorious light of Baskerville shine within you. Bye bye.